All right. Well, hey, thanks very much, everyone, for coming to the call today. I think you guys are really going to like our speaker. So Chad Miller is one of the members here in the Austin area, and he just is a wealth of knowledge. So he worked for about 15 years for large corporate buildings and growing teams. Most of his career was with a company on the Fortune's Most Admired Companies list for 27 consecutive years. He's got 2 master's degrees, including one in organizational leadership, which led him to the founding of his HR consulting business, Life Abundant Leadership. And through this company, he helps business leaders grow their businesses, targeting multiple times growth in organizational size, revenues, and profits, all while helping those companies become the best place to work type of companies. So he does this by helping leaders implement programs and solutions to improve organizational leadership, optimize team performance, and create and sustain outstanding workplace cultures. So he's going to be talking about just how to improve everything about your business, really. So Chad, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, thanks. Well, welcome everybody. I heard some from Memphis and Nashville. I've got family, my wife's side in both those areas. Enjoy heading out to Tennessee. Is everybody able to see my desktop okay?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thanks to Daniel and to Justin for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. I'm excited to share with you. Oh, it looks like we got some other kind of pop up there. All right. Yeah, so excited to share with you all about winning with people. In organizations, all too often, I see with small to mid-sized businesses, leaders that are investing in their marketing and their technology, and they're neglecting one of the most critical components to the success of their business, which is their staff and their people. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how you invest in your people, including yourself as the leader of your business, to make your business successful. So with that, let's jump in. Today, normally this presentation would be a bit longer, so we're going to be cutting it short. So we will be flying through really fast, but just to let you all know, I will make these slides available at the end of the session. I'll give you an opportunity where you can sign up, and then I can send you the slides. You don't have to be madly taking notes as we're going through all of the presentation today. So with that, let's jump in. So first of all, a little bit about my story. Justin told you a bit of it with my background, but I want to tell you a little bit about, in particular, one of the companies that I worked with most of my career, over 12 plus years, out in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now I live in Austin, Texas. I was born and raised in Texas, but my wife is from California, and we went out there for about 13 years. And I worked for this company. They're a large global company, about $7 billion, I think. And so good size, but I was working in IT for them. When I left the organization, I was an IT director. And so I was hiring and growing my team with IT professionals in the San Francisco Bay Area, one of the most competitive markets for technology professionals in the country or in the world even. And needless to say, even though we were large at about 7 billion, nothing to compare to Apple or Google or Meta. And that's the talent that I was hiring onto my team. So I had to compete with all of these massive companies when naturally I could not compete on the budget of what we were hiring for. So I had to learn how to compete with culture and creating an environment where the employees loved to work, they wanted to stay. And the same was true of myself. I knew I could have gone to other companies. When I started working there, I only planned to work there for 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years, maybe grow, get some experience, and then maybe move on to something else. And I ended up working there for over 12 years because, as Justin mentioned, they were on have been on the Fortune's Most Admired Companies for 27 years in a row. I had a great boss, a great team, and a good culture within my business unit. And when you have those kinds of things, you don't really want to go somewhere else because even though you might get more money, at the end of the day, money only goes so far, and the work experience makes all the difference. So I wanted to share that story because that's really gets to the key of what we're talking about today in how you build teams, attract and retain staff. On that note, I will say, if we were all in a room together where I could see your hands and everything, I'd ask a little bit about your organizations. But based on what I know of NIA, I'm going to assume mostly we're in sort of the small business area. And what I wanted to say is, even if you're a solopreneur, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is growing your team, about how you invest in your staff, things like that. But even as a solopreneur, if you want to grow your business 5x, 10x, you're going to need to grow your teams. And so thinking about these concepts is going to be hopefully still very valuable for you as you think about the trajectory of your company and how you want to grow. And what we'll talk about with culture, the more you get in on that, as you grow the team and the company early on, that puts you in a great position for where you go down the road. So just want to let you know, even if you are that solopreneur, hopefully you'll still get some great value out of our session today. So I want you to think for a minute about a couple things about your business, your marketing strategy and the budget that you allocate to that, and your technology strategy and the budget you allocate to that. As I mentioned earlier, most companies, those are two areas that you invest some of your early dollars is into marketing to grow your business and into the technology that's going to equip your business for growth in whatever services or products that you want to offer. And so companies are allocating budget to that to grow their business. And that's good. Peter Drucker, a well-known business leader and thought leader, has said there's only two things, key functions to business. It's marketing and innovation. He said everything else is a cost. So marketing and innovation naturally ties in with technology. So those are good places to be spending money. But that same guy, Peter Drucker, said that culture eats innovation, or eats strategy rather, for breakfast. So what we're going to be talking about today is a third component, your people strategy. You'll hear me use people strategy and culture somewhat interchangeably. The people strategy is the intentionality that you bring to how you shape culture. And I'd encourage you to think about, what are you currently spending in your budget? Again, people say, you can tell somebody's values by looking at their checkbook. Back in the day, now nobody uses a checkbook. But, by looking at your bank account, we'll say. Similar thing can be said of your business. If we were to look at your budget, how much is going to marketing technology versus how much is going to investing in your people and your staff? And hopefully at the end of today, you'll be thinking about maybe how you might want to make some changes in that. So as we think about people strategy, I want to first address a couple oversights, myths, misconceptions. First would be the people that are just unaware of the value of culture. So like I mentioned, I worked for 13 years in the San Francisco Bay Area in large companies. Their culture is like a very common word within the vernacular of companies that want to be top level companies. If you want to lead and dominate in your industry, you're thinking about how to create the best culture so that you can compete with others. Since I've gotten into Texas and working more with small to mid-sized businesses, I'm finding out commonly culture isn't even a part of their terminology for how they're leading their business. So some people just fall into that unaware category. And if that might have been you, hopefully today, as you leave this, you'll be thinking a little bit more about, what's company culture mean? How does it bring value to my organization? The second category would be those that I say undervalue or misunderstand culture. Some people, you'll talk about it and they say, oh, that's soft, that's esoteric, touchy-feely. I only care about what's going to drive the dollars, what's going to make me money for my business. And as you'll see, culture and how you invest in leadership and your people makes a big impact on the dollar, on your revenue, on your profitability. And so we'll get to that. I want to share a couple items from some studies. Gallup recently came out with a study that said low employee engagement is costing companies $8.8 trillion globally. So when we talk about employee engagement, it's making a big impact on companies losing money. And we'll get to how that happens. Another study from the Society of Human Resource Management said toxic work culture is costing US businesses alone $220 billion. So again, we're talking big hits to company performance. That same study said 1 in 2 employees are looking to work elsewhere. And the cost of an employee quitting has been estimated at 0.5 to 2x an employee's salary. So if you pay an employee $50,000 and they quit, that just cost your company somewhere between $25,000 and $100,000. Multiply that by 5 employees that maybe quit in the last year, you're talking 125 to 500, or sorry, $1 million. And if you're a larger company, you can see how that quickly escalates up to some very large costs to the organization. All of a sudden, spending $10,000, $20,000 to invest in your culture, you start to see you could get 10x, 100x ROI on that really just by that staff. The study also found 59% of employees are quiet quitting. If you don't know what quiet quitting is, that means just showing up to get your paycheck, doing the bare minimum to not get fired, but you're not bringing your A game. And if you've got 59% of your employees in that mode, you can quickly assume that you're losing 35 to 65% of the potential productivity of your organization. So imagine growing your revenues 35 to 65% without hiring anybody, without doing anything different other than getting your employees engaged. Very quickly, you start to see the value that that can bring. In the same study, they said, what's the number one solution that leaders could do to address this engagement problem? And they said it's investing in culture. That's what the people that gave these same estimates said, or that gave this results about 59% of quiet quitting. But all of this has to be budgeted. I say if it doesn't get budgeted, it doesn't get done. If you're not valuing the culture enough to invest in it, then you're really just giving lip service, and we'll see the cost of that as we keep going. Next, people that I say misunderstand culture, commonly they're looking at their employees as cogs in the wheel, cogs in the machine. And, I just plug and play. I use people for this or that to achieve objectives. They don't recognize that their employees are their biggest value multipliers. If you really invest in your people and they're bringing their A game, those people aren't just showing up to do a job. They're showing up to grow the company because they're invested in it. They're invested in the vision, and they're going to help you grow that company. Also, we already talked about this, leaders that just see culture as soft and intangible. I always say that's when culture is done bad. If you are not doing culture right, it is soft and esoteric and intangible. But when culture is done well, it's very tangible and very practical. And today we'll talk about ways you can make it that. Finally, a book that I recommend, Patrick Lencioni's The Advantage. He talks about organizational health is the number one advantage for differentiating your business. And ultimately, that boils down to a lot of the things about culture we're going to discuss today. Finally, the last category is those that would see culture as something that can be managed without intentionality. They just say, oh, we've already got a good culture. And to that, I would say, do you really? If we asked all of your employees, would they agree? Sometimes the leader thinks they've got a great culture. And then you start talking to the employees and they find out maybe not so great. Or they say that it's good and the employees agree. Well, one thing that I like to talk about is what I call the culture degradation principle. And that is, if your culture isn't getting better, it's likely soon going to get worse. As a company grows, let's say right now you've got 10 employees. Well, as you get to 20, 30, 50 employees, if you're not continually investing in that culture, it's like a boulder on a hill, and it's just going to roll downhill and drag your company down with it. But if you invest in the culture, I say it becomes that boulder, becomes a steam engine. As you feed it food, as you invest in it, it's pulling your company up the hill to newer heights. So, but all that takes is intentionality. All right, so moving on, a little bit more about culture and valuation. This study came out of the Columbia Business School. If you're ever thinking about selling your business, listen up to this. They found that executives that want to acquire a business. So if you're looking to sell your business to somebody and you want to grow your business until it's acquired, 54% of executives said they would walk away from an acquisition target if there are culture issues. So 54% chance, if you're not investing in your culture, you're going to lose 54% of your potential buyers just because of those culture issues. And another 33% said they'd require a 10 to 30% discount on the target price for that acquisition. So again, if you're not investing in your culture, you could be losing 10 to 30% premium on your eventual exit from your business. So some pretty important things there if you're wanting to exit. That same study said only 16% of respondents said that their culture was where it needed to be, and the biggest reason for that was underinvestment. So hopefully, as we talk through all this, you're starting to really see this is something really worth investing in time, energy, and the money of your company to set it on good founding. So what are we talking about when we talk about culture? It's the mission, the vision, and the values that define the identity of the organization, that inspire the people towards what they're working towards. Most people, if you've ever done anything like EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, you might have heard of that. That will get you probably at least as far as mission, vision, values. But I like to say my definition of culture goes a lot farther. It's the behaviors, which is the actions, and the rituals, which are the systems that make these values evident in the day-to-day lives. If you don't take it that far, if it's only mission, vision, values, then it is what those people misunderstood culture to be. It's touchy-feely, it's esoteric, the rubber doesn't meet the road, and you're not going to get the results you're looking for. But if you tie those values into the behaviors and systems on a day-to-day basis, that's where you really start becoming best place to work type companies and getting results like Netflix, which is getting $3 million per employee. So $3 million in revenue per employee. Google's getting 1.5 million per employee. Think about getting that kind of productivity out of each employee that you're working with. Now, when the behaviors and the rituals of a company don't align to the values and the mission, vision of a company, the true culture is based on those actions and rituals. So companies can talk about, oh, these are our values, these are what is our mission and our vision. But if that doesn't align to the actions and the rituals of the leadership, it's the employees will know that the true culture is driven by the behaviors. It's all about what's rewarded, what's tolerated, what's overlooked, and what's punished within your organization or disciplined. This is what true culture starts to be determined by. So if you say that you value integrity, are you willing to discipline employees when they're not exemplifying that integrity? Or if you say that you value good communication, what are you doing to reward people when they exemplify that good communication? So let's talk a little bit about mission, vision, values. The first thing I would say here is a big warning, which I was already touching on. If you say something, if you're going to put time, effort into mission, vision, values, you've got to back it up or it's going to backfire. We'll talk a little bit about a prime example of that in just a bit. But done properly, your mission is your true north. It's what motivates and inspires and guides your team. It's what drives all the decision making and how you empower your staff. It's also what informs your brand, so it ties back to your marketing, and it's how you attract talent and clients. But you got to walk it, talk it, live it daily, or just like I warned earlier, it backfires. The mission is your why of the organization. It's your purpose. If you've never watched Simon Sinek's videos on YouTube about the why, I highly encourage it. He's also got a book, but you can go just watch his YouTube video. It'll get you a good start. You want to be plugging into the why of your organization, and you want everybody in your organization to know that why. It's great if you can tie it into the origin story of the company, about how the company got started, and how you tie it into your personal story. And this becomes part of how you onboard employees. You want to help them tie their personal story to the organization's mission, because that's when you get employees that are giving you 100%, that are 100% invested in the growth and the success of the company, because they're tying their personal story into the mission of the organization. So that's your goal and what you want to be driving for. Next, your vision. If your mission is your why, your vision is where you're going. And what does it look like? Where do you want to be in 10 years as an organization? Again, you want all of your employees to know about that. And that's going to be what's inspiring them. Because if you're in a small business, growing a small business, you know things are hard, they're going to get harder. And it's going to be what's going to drive your employees to bring their A game when it's been one hard day after another, with a late night after a late night. What's inspiring them is that vision, and you want that to be something that's really driving your employees. Finally, the values. If the mission is the why, vision is the where, values are the who. Who are we as an organization, and how? How do we behave? Now, some things about the values, you want to make sure they're meaningful, memorable, distinctive. If you look at these words here on the left side of the screen, various different values, a lot of companies have some of these same values. What's distinctive about your company and how you implement this versus everybody else? I don't know how many people say, oh, when I say what distinguishes your company, I say, oh, we're about relationships and customer service. Well, so is about every other company that I've talked to. So what's distinct and unique about yours? And again, just like the mission, if you give lip service, big warning, it's going to backfire. If I was to call out, let me step back, 4 of these values: excellence, respect, integrity, and teamwork. Those 4 values. Raise a hands. Anybody think those sound like good values? If your company was about teamwork, excellence, respect, and integrity, you think that's a good company? It sounds really good, right? Those are the 4 values of Enron. And for those that may be too young to know, Enron was a big company that blew up with a massive scandal a number of years ago because they paid lip service to their values instead of integrating them with systems that actually drive those values into the day-to-day. So again, if you don't really follow these values up and make sure they're reinforced, it's going to backfire and can be in a really bad way. Finally, you want the values to be actionable. All right, so how do we tie this in? There's this book, Culture by Design. I'm a big fan. I mentioned my experience at this company that I worked for 12 plus years in the Bay Area. We were clients of their company and used their system to implement solutions for culture when I was there. I was such a big fan of their program that when I left that company to start my consulting business, they were the first company that I contacted to become licensed as a consultant for them. So now this is one of the services that I offer for companies to help them implement this solution at their company. So obviously I'm biased, but as far as I know, it's one of the most practical, tangible systems for implementing culture and shaping culture. But you can check out the book, see if you're interested. Let me know if you want to follow up from there. But it's all about, like I say, as far as you go with culture as mission, vision, values, you've lost the battle. You've got to tie that into behaviors and rituals. In this book, you can check it out. It'll talk you through how you can do that, whether you and I ever partner together or not. Definitely recommend this book, Culture by Design, so that you can be intentional about tying your organization's values to the behaviors and rituals that are going to tie that into the day-to-day. And I want to give you a little bit of an idea about how this really impacts organizations. And for that, I want to share a couple testimonial videos that talk about the impact this program had within their organizations. So let me switch over here. MHS Lift is one of them, but I want to get up to the videos. Here we go. Get your popcorn ready and let's take a listen.
Where the fundamentals 100% responsible for our success over the last 8 years, I can't say it was 100%, but I can't deny that the fact that we've been, for Crown Forklift, we've been their #1 dealer 6 out of the last 7 years. We have also improved our top line sales 3x, and we've improved our profit 10x. Also, I would have never even had the courage to put our hat in the ring to be best place to work in Philadelphia. We've won best place to work in Philadelphia the last 2 years. I mean, that's, to me, of all the awards and all the profit and the money, that was our biggest accomplishment. And that I give 100% credit to the fundamental process. So I think it's very important to implement the culture-wise system because it really focuses on the people. Many CEOs spend too much time focusing on the numbers, focusing on their profit, and they don't spend enough time focusing on their people. And they don't spend enough time focusing on what would an improvement in engagement make to the bottom line? What would an improvement in employee retention make to the bottom line? And it's significant. And we've seen significant results once we really started changing our focus. Not to say that.
All right. So that's what I was talking about when you see companies getting this 3x, 10x in revenue and profit by investing in their people. And I love what he says about that. Just where I started the presentation, you see companies that are focusing on their marketing strategy, their tech strategy, and that's all great. But behind the marketing strategy is the people that are executing it, and the same with the technology. So those can really be critical. Want to listen to one other here? Let's keep it rolling.
What attracted me to come work here was actually the culture of Field. And then once I started the interview process and started talking to Tina in HR and then having interviews with other people in the company, that really reinforced that the culture is one of the best parts of this company.
When people join Field, they feel a connection to the larger purpose that we have. They feel a connection to each other. They feel a connection to their team leader, and all those things are super important. And I think that is something different that is not found in most places. And I think a lot of that ties back to the fundamentals, the expectations that we have, and just our culture overall.
At the end of the day, we're all really in the people business. You know, we sell fasteners, and that's highly commoditized, but culture is not commoditized. There's a very compelling story at Field. When prospective customers come to Field, about 80% of the time they become customers. And that's because they interact with our people, they see our culture, and they want to work with us.
All right. So when they talk about the fundamentals, that's a play on word. The first company called them fundamentals. This company that's called Field Fastener, they called them the fundamentals, little play on word with their company name. But they're both talking about that same system. And let's go ahead and switch back. But you can hear there, not only did it impact revenue profitability, the second company, you heard them talking about 80% customer conversion on their prospective clients. I don't know about any of you, but if I could achieve 80% customer conversion with my potential customers, that's a pretty good number to be aiming for. And they say all of this comes from creating a culture that when people come in and see how we work, they want to do business with us. I'm sure you've heard people do business with who they know, like, and trust. Culture is how you get that know, like, and trust with your potential customers. So how do we get there a little bit further? First place is in the management plan. I talked earlier about EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. They talk about getting the right people on the bus in the right seats. So depending on where your organization is at right now in terms of staff, you want to be thinking about, do we have the right people in the organization? Are they in the right positions? If not, what are we going to do to get there? And if you're a much smaller organization, as you grow the organization, you should be thinking as you build your network, who are the people that I might want to recruit into my team as I grow this organization? Who are the people that complement me? All too often I hear business leaders say, I just need to be able to clone myself. And that always makes me cringe a little bit, because if you're cloning yourself, you're probably missing a lot of blind spots, frankly, because you're bringing in somebody else that has the same personality as you, the same strengths as you. What I'd really encourage you to think about is, who are the people that are going to complement you, that bring in different skill sets? They bring something different to the team that you don't already have, and fill the gaps. And I'd encourage you to think about that as you think about growing your team. Also, decision-making and conflict strategy. How are you going to differentiate yourself from your competitors and from other companies in the way that you make decisions in the organization, in the way you embrace and engage conflict, in the way that you ensure clarity? The book I mentioned earlier, The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, talks about how clarity is really key, making sure that you've got a unified team. All of this stuff goes into the people dynamics of the organization. Next, your operations plan. What does your personnel plan look like? And that's what's the number of staff that you need to grow your business to the goals that you want to hit in the next 5 to 10 years. What are the skills that they need to have? What's going to be your payment plan? What's going to be your recruiting strategy? What's going to be your training strategy? All of these things function into what I call the people strategy overall. And you can let that just go sort of status quo. Oh, we'll hire when we need to hire. We'll, just do the typical recruiting process. But what's going to make you different? If you want to be intentional and strategically exceptional, setting yourself apart from your peers, how are you going to do that differently? And in each one of these areas, we'll talk about a little bit that you can do to apply some strategies for making it different. First, on the recruiting field, I recently was presenting with an association, a lot of law firms from all around the country, and they were looking at how do we attract good new lawyers. It's a highly competitive field. The talent supply is relatively low relative to the demand. So you've got low supply, high demand, which means, and the employees know that, the people coming in, these young attorneys coming out of law school, know that they can be in high demand, and they have high expectations because there's a lot of options. Post-COVID, you're not just competing with the companies in your neighborhood right around you in your city. You're competing for talent with people, especially if you're in any kind of job that can be done remotely, working with people in New York, in San Francisco, all around the country, all around the world. And this is where your talent's coming from. So people have got a lot of options, and you've got to create that workplace that they want to work, just like the company where I knew I could go make more money elsewhere, but I stayed for 3 or 4 times as long because I really enjoyed the people and the place that I worked. So if you can see all of these things, this low supply, high expectations, lots of options, these challenges as opportunities, this is where you differentiate yourself from your competitors. A couple other things thinking about recruiting. My father-in-law was a very successful business executive for many years. He told me when I was a new manager, said, when you're hiring, think about 3 things. Not just can they do the job. Most people get stuck in that. They look at the resume, they look at the work experience, they think, can they do the job? He said, that's just the first question. That's the ability. You also want to ask, will they do the job? Are they motivated? And this is where you get back to the value, mission, vision, values. Is there alignment between who they are and their goals for where they want to go in their career, what they value, and what the organization values? This is where you tap into that motivational component. Will they do the job? Is it a good fit for them in this particular position? And finally, the fit. My father-in-law said the third question is, are they one of us? Are they going to merge with our culture and with the way that we want our business to be run? So I'd encourage you to think about those, not just getting caught up in the resumes. More and more companies are getting away from just resumes and saying, getting into people's character, their experience, who are they going to be when they step into the position you're hiring for? And finally, another great book, Patrick Lencioni's Ideal Team Player, says the ideal team player is humble, hungry, and people smart. When you're interviewing, you should be asking questions that get to, do they have these 3 things? Are they humble? Are they driven? Are they hungry? And do they have good people smarts? On that last point there, it takes us to our next slide, EQ versus IQ. If you're not familiar with these terms, IQ has to do with your intellectual intelligence. EQ has to do with your emotional intelligence. And for many decades, a study going back all the way into the early 20th century said 85% of success in business comes from your soft skills, 15% comes from your technical skills or your trade skills. And yet, if you look at most budgets, where are people spending money on training? They're training their people on all the technical skills. One study said 78% of training goes into the technical skills. Means you only got 22% left on soft skills. So I encourage leaders to reverse that, or at least think about modifying that. How are you investing for yourself as a leader and for your team in that soft skill development? When I work with clients, we've got multiple different platforms that will help them implement for training their people to develop these soft skills, lots of different assessments, things that you can use. But I'd encourage you to be looking at how are you developing your teams in their soft skills. Next, listening and learning. So feedback is another key component of culture. And I'd encourage you to think about, how are you getting feedback from your employees on the quality of your organization, on how things are going, what's going well, what's not going well. Again, many leaders are often surprised when they first do an employee feedback survey, if they've not done one before, to find out that maybe some of their employees don't think things are going quite as well as the leader did. So I don't know when you last did your employee survey to get feedback from them. If you haven't done one in a couple of years, I'd encourage you, this is something you should be doing at least every 2 years. To get, not every 2 years, at least twice a year is what I meant to say. Every 6 months, you should be getting feedback from your employees on what's going well, what can we do better, how could we be better as a company, how could we show up better for our customers and our clients. This is what you want to be getting, so that your employees know that their voice matters in the organization. They're driving some of the future. They're not just in the back seat along for the ride. They have a voice in where the company's going and how it's going to get there. And this is empowering for the employees. And a study found that 80% of people will make 80% of their choices for where they work and when they leave an employer based off empowerment and flexibility. Those two things, empowerment and flexibility, account for 80% of their choices on where they're going to work. So if you're not empowering and developing your employees and giving them flexibility about how they work, you're likely losing them. And book, another great book, Daniel Pink's, it's called Drive, rather. He talks about 3 things for employee engagement: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Are you giving your employees autonomy, mastery, and purpose? If not, again, you're probably missing a boat, getting some of that quiet quitting. They're just looking for their next best opportunity to come along. So encourage you, be thinking about this. Not just employee surveys, use your one-to-ones. If you're not doing one-to-ones regularly with your staff, you're missing out on an opportunity not only to engage them, but to learn from them. They're the front lines of your company. You want to be hearing from them. What can we do to be better, grow, to bring better services to our customers? Use those one-to-ones as great opportunities to get feedback. Also, as low tech as it may be, the suggestion box can be a great thing. Let them just throw in the suggestions. Anybody like the show? I bring it up. I just lost the name of it. Ted Lasso. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso on Apple TV, fun show. He asked for feedback from his team, and one of the guys, just to sort of grumble and poke, says, "Oh, the water pressure in the shower sucks," and he's doing it just to be sort of a jerk to the new coach. But the coach takes it and he goes and he gets the water pressure fixed, and then they show that team player comes in and he gets great water pressure in the shower. He's like, "Hey, this guy means business." That's what you want to be doing with your employees, showing that you're listening to their feedback and making changes. Then rewarding culture. I talked about earlier, working for a company, you can't always compete on pay. There may be other companies that can outpay you. If you want to retain your staff, you got to get creative in many of these other different ways on this slide. The benefits that you offer. There's some great solutions out there for providing great benefits to your employees, not just health benefits, but a thing that's really growing right now, mental health. And there are companies that you can work with for very low cost to get mental health support for your employees at very low cost to the employer. Also recognition. How are you rewarding the behaviors that you want to see? Another great thing, especially for young employees, they want to be developed. So how are you investing in their learning, their professional development? That'll go just as far as maybe another $1,000 over the course of the year. It's how are you investing in their learning and their professional development? Community impact. It's a great way to engage your culture. Go do some community service together as a team. Great opportunity there. Also, the work environment, the resources, diversity, equity, inclusion. These are key things, how you differentiate yourself again from your competitors and become that best place to work in your city. where people want to stay and they're attracting. You don't have to recruit. They do all your recruiting for you. They tell, as soon as you're hiring, they tell their friends, hey man, we're hiring, come work for us. They're going to bring the best of their buds to come work with you when you get culture right. Then innovation culture. This is a topic I love. We don't have time to go into it as much as I like. Recently, I did sort of a TED Talk type presentation on this. If you Google Disrupt HR, that was the name of the conference. Disrupt HR is one word. Disrupt HR and Chad Miller. You can get just a 5-minute talk I did on this about my background in rock climbing and Ninja Warrior and how it ties into psychological safety, resilience, persistence, and failing well. If you want to empower a culture for innovation, going back to what we said at the beginning, Peter Drucker said 2 keys to business, marketing and innovation. If you want that innovation culture, you've got to be helping your team know what it means to fail well, to know that they're supported with that they can take risks, they're not going to get fired, but they also know the difference between an intelligent risk and a preventable risk. This is all stuff that you need to be working with your teams to empower them and help them show up each day with the resilience and persistence to get your company to the growth goals that you want to hit. Start with leadership. I mentioned earlier, already have a staff, let's say 10 employees, 5 employees, even just working on yourself and your leader so that you can be the leader as you grow your team that you want to be. I'd encourage you, great resources and all kinds of podcasts, online articles, YouTube. I'm using that more and more for professional development these days. You can Google all kinds of stuff and hear from excellent speakers just by listening to stuff on YouTube. Audible, if you're not a book person, I've been spouting off all these different books. Get the audio version of it. Listen to it that way. Or you may want to, here's a great resource, Blinkist. It's a mobile app for your phone. There are other ones like it. Google it, find the one that works for you. But what they provide is book summaries. So in like 15 minutes, you can get the main points out of a book and move on. It's a great way to digest a whole lot of great thought leadership in short amounts of times. And it could be a great investment for your staff. I commonly recommend for clients, if they have leaders within their organization, it's only like $80 or $100 to get them a Blinkist subscription. And then you can talk with them, hey, I want you to go check out this book summary. And they go and listen for 15 minutes. And then you talk about that in your next one-to-one. Great way to help new leaders grow and develop by giving them great resources. $80 and they get all the resources within that app, Blinkist. There's others as well. Like I say, check it out. Also, professional coaching, seminars, conference. Be thinking about how you're growing yourself and how you're investing in growing the leaders within your organization. All right, all this that we've been talking about is internally. I want to look at how this impacts externally. We saw in that one video, the second company said they get 80% conversion with prospective clients because of their culture. I want to start looking at a little bit of that component, how this impacts the external side of your business. And the first of that is on brand. If you've ever done any work with a marketing consultant or thought about your marketing strategy, you've thought about your brand, and key to your brand is mission, vision, values. So again, hopefully you've already done that work. If you've not, that's the first place to start. But just as we warned, if you say this is our mission, vision, values, we're a relationship business, we're a customer business, and then you treat your people internally in a way that's not coherent with that, it's going to backfire again. So you've got to live the same thing you're telling your customers that you're about, living that internally. Again, also what makes you unique, distinctive, and compelling. Once you invest all this, you want to get your bang for your buck on this, right? So make this part of your marketing story. What makes us different is the way we treat our people so that our people treat our customers different. If you speak that out in your social media challenges and your social media posts, things like that, all of a sudden people get to see this is a company that I want to do business with because I like the way they do business and it makes me trust them more. So this is where you start to attract those customers based off your investment in your people and your culture. Some other resources, turning it a bit towards the sales effectiveness. I mentioned YouTube earlier. Vanessa Van Edwards, she's got this book, Captivate, but she's also got a YouTube channel with about 1 million followers. I'd encourage you to go check it out. They'll talk about how you network better, how you pitch your business better, how you can be more effective in your sales, all based off various different elements of the science of people. So great resource there. DISC, I know within NIA, they talk about bank. They are similar. DISC will take you only about 15, 20 minutes. I've heard people say, oh, it takes me an hour. It doesn't take an hour. Anyways, won't go down that road. But DISC and bank, both of them, what they're good for, hopefully you've gone through these exercises within your NIA groups about how you sell differently based off your perception of people's bank type. And the same is true of DISC. This is one of the resources I use with clients. Emotional intelligence. On the NIA benefits site, I've got, if you wanted to talk about it, we can do an EQ assessment. And this sort of helps you read the room within your sales environment and be more effective by your EQ and how you show up with your employees. Makes a big impact internally and externally. Finally, mental toughness. Sales, we know it's challenging. I love this quote that success is encountering failure over and over without the loss of enthusiasm. That takes mental toughness to maintain your enthusiasm levels through failure. And through sales, you're going to have wins and losses, mental toughness. There's an assessment that I use with clients to help them grow that. This can be another great resource for growing sales effectiveness within your teams. Then the customer satisfaction. We talked about getting feedback internally. How are you getting feedback externally from your customers? I'm sure you've heard the value. It's always cheaper to keep customers and to upsell them than to acquire new customers. So the way that you invest in your people and in your culture, all of this it feeds into how you standardize excellence for your customers, and that's going to help you attract and retain. But you want to be getting feedback from your customers. That becomes your testimonials, your referrals. Great way to be driving your business. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. If there's anything that I could say, I hope you take away from today is that you recognize to win in business, you've got to be winning with your people, that you don't take culture for granted, that you be intentional about how you plan and budget for your people strategy. And with that, I would say take action today. Don't wait on this. Think right now about where your company is at, about what you want to do differently, about what conversations you want to have with your staff, about what systems you want to put in place to help shape the culture and where you want to be. Take action on that today. Think about, one of the things that I like to say is, what do you want to start? What do you want to stop? What do you want to continue? That's a great thing as you're thinking about what you're going to put into action for today. What do you want to stop doing at your company? What do you want to continue doing? And what do you want to start doing? Finally, I would say, if as we've talked about all this, I hope you see the value in this kind of investment. If you see the value, but this isn't just, you're not the strategic planner, the person that's going to implement all this, identify the person in your organization that will geek out on this and that they're going to love it, because you can see the value. You want somebody that's going to be the champion of this and help you implement it in a way that's going to bring you the success that you're looking for. So with that, we can start opening it up for questions. I told you that I'd give you the slides. As we do this next bit, if you want to scan this code, it'll give you a little feedback form. I told you, you want to get feedback from your customers. I'm going to walk the talk. I would welcome your feedback. If you'll take 2 or 3 minutes at some point, fill this out, give me some feedback so that I can apply that with people I speak with down the road. I'd greatly appreciate it. And when you fill this out, that will cue it to send you today's slides. So with that, Daniel and Justin, if we want to open it up, I'd love to have any questions from the group. I'll let you scan this for a couple more seconds. And on the next slide, I'll give you some ways you can reach out to me with my email and my LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chad. And yes, let's go ahead and open it up. If you have any questions or comments at all, go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself. You could unmute yourself by either clicking that little button or holding the space bar. You could also drop any comments in chat as well. So we're going to go ahead and open it up. Don't everyone jump up at once. Questions and comments on culture. Let me go ahead and expand this here. One moment.
I'll open it up with a question myself for all of you. What's something that you've been doing for culture in your organization that you've seen to be successful that maybe you want to share with the other people attending today?
I'll tell you, with Network in Action, and culturally, we always have our meetings where our people are able to come in and give their questions and comments, and basically receive input and suggestions on what could make us better. And very often we implement some of those changes and some of those suggestions. So, every Monday we have our Monday morning meeting. Everyone's kicking it there. And I'd say they're always fruitful. There's a little bit of rah 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 that happens, except mostly it's actionable stuff, you know. So
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, a great tool that you can implement in your company is some kind of like innovation event where you're going to encourage everybody in the company, let's say once a year, or you may want to do once a quarter, twice a year, whatever. They can take a day and use that day to brainstorm ideas. And then they get to present to you, the business owner, business executive team, whatever, about what ideas they came up with. It's a great way to sort of crowdsource ways to improve the organization, and then celebrate the people. Maybe you want to vote amongst the company, identify the top 3 ideas and say, as a company, let's vote on these and say, what can we do to implement these? And then celebrate whoever won, like with the coolest idea on how the company can improve. It's a
I like
fun
that.
thing to do with your companies.
Right on. Yeah, in the tech world, there's a lot of upvoting and things like that happen. I see all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk about their experiences, criticisms in culture, things that they're doing right, things they're doing wrong? Bring it on. Chad's here for the next 15 minutes. So
What's somebody's worst boss story? Worst boss you ever worked for? Don't give any names.
Hi, Chad. This is Gloria. I am a part-time entrepreneur, so I still have a full-time job. So everything that you were talking about really kind of resonated with me and on my full-time job. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have a team lead, and then they report to a division chief. And that
Right.
division chief is very passive, conflict averse. And in meetings now, when I have asked a question and there's like 2 group leads or team leads and then the division chief, and they won't even answer a question that I think is just, well, when can we expect this to roll out, or when are you going to tell the group about this? And nobody answers the question. It's almost like I didn't say anything at all. And on different questions, which I think if you don't have an answer to a question, you at least respond to say, let me get back to you. Let me check on that. And it's like crickets in the room. So it's like, I'm having a challenge now. It's like, do I even say anything? It's like quiet quitting. And it's like, I don't want to quit, but it's like, oh my God, really? So that's kind of, I think, the worst for me. Yeah. So this is really good.
100%.
We need somebody like you to come in and do the cultural thing. And we did that years ago when we had management change, but I think we need it again within my small group for sure.
Yeah, you touched on many great things there. The last bit you mentioned, needing to do it again, is sort of what I talked about, that culture degradation principle. It's the boulder. Over time, it rolls downhill if it's left to its own devices. But if you continually invest in it, then it's like the steam engine. You feed it fuel and it leads your company uphill. And I love that you touched as well on the importance of employee voice. As leaders, anything that you can do to give your employees voice, to recognize their contribution, to celebrate the value that they bring, all of that is going to help you win champions within your organization. And anything you do that minimizes their voice, just like Gloria said, it's shooting yourself in the foot. That's exactly, as she said, how you get quiet quitting happening, because people are like, why even bother? So great comments, Gloria. Anybody else? anything you're struggling with within your workplace, wondering how do we improve this within our company? Got lots of companies going really well. They're just cruising.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, definitely hope that people got some good food for thought. That's always what I'm aiming for, is bringing people value, helping them think through something that maybe they haven't thought of, or in a way that they haven't thought of. And hopefully, as you go back into your places of work, now you've got some things to think about what's making your company unique and distinct and better than all of your competition, that's going to lead you to achieve all the goals that you're working towards. And Daniel, you said we're good for a couple minutes over, right? I'm fine to stay, not trying to shut anybody down. So any comments or questions, definitely want to welcome those. Saw a comment from Shannon. Thanks for joining, Shannon.
All right. And before we close out, guys, and thank you for the kind words in there, Gloria, as well. I'm going to go ahead and drop this link in the chat one more time. If you would like to share your contact information, you can do so by filling out this form. And we will send out a CSV of today's participants. Make sure you go ahead and click that, fill out that form. I do encourage everyone to go to networkinaction.com, go to member benefits, and click the national virtual link. There you can see the schedule of our speaker series. Our next meeting is going to be a Network with the Nations. That's going to be on the first Wednesday of the month, August 7th, hosted by Helen and Oscar Maldonado. They'll be doing Network with the Nations, followed by the third Wednesday of the month with Michael Verrett, or Michelle Verrett, doing our Sales Mastery presentation on August 21st. August 28th, the fourth Wednesday of the month, Mr. Mark Thompson. He'll be presenting the power of mental toughness for our focus forum. Learning objectives include the definition of mental toughness, 3 levels of thinking, critical thinking, being a good performer, very good performer, 12 critical thinking strategies of Navy SEALs. Sounds like some interesting stuff there, so I do encourage you to check that out. August is going to be full of some great information. So, without further ado, I do want to thank Chad one last time for doing this presentation today. Enrich your
Pleasure.
culture at your company. Thank you very much, Chad. And yeah, does anybody have any last minute questions or comments? Feel free to speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, that's that then. Chad, thanks again. This was lovely, and I will be seeing you all on the next one. Take care.
Thanks. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.